I think, Chairman, I have an amendment in the nature of a substitute at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 6016, offered by Mr. Kelly of Pennsylvania.
Okay, this amendment includes clarifying language which further supports the intent of my bill. Again, we are giving Federal agencies the mechanisms they do not currently have. We've worked with the minority, and I urge all members to support its adoption. And I would say, Mr. Chairman, I think with this is a common-sense solution. I think those of us that come out of the private sector look at this, and it's very hard to explain to people when I go back home in my district, why would we continue? We put somebody on administrative leave, continue to pay them, and when you talk to the people at the GSA, they said, well, you know what, we didn't have the mechanisms to stop that from happening. In fact, in the case that we talk about with the GSA and Mr. Neely, he was actually given a performance award, which some of us would call a bonus, and which I would call another further expense on taxpayers. You got a $9,000 bonus. Now, we're talking about the SES members at the highest level, and this does give those agency heads the ability to do what all of us think would be a common-sense solution to it and a fix. It gives them the tools that they need to run their agencies the right way. So I think it makes sense what we're doing. And I would say this, that we have to be careful we don't paint everybody with the same brush. But what we're doing is we're giving these agency heads the opportunity to do what they haven't had in the past. We're giving them tools that they have not had at their disposal before.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I could conceive of such tools, something comparable to a quick TRO process, where, see, in the absence of hearing what those tools are, I'm not sure what we mean. It does seem to me that if you go through the usual process, whether it's a civil service process and heaven knows a judicial process, you're going to be collecting your pay for some time. It does seem to me that agencies, perhaps this committee, could through legislation design quicker processes. Now, the courts do this all the time. You can come to court and ask for an immediate injunction. I'm not suggesting here that we want an injunction, but you can do something asking for an immediate injunction. And a court will hear that, and if it says, and if it believes that there is a likelihood that you will prevail in a hearing for preliminary injunction, you can get an immediate answer to an issue. Now, this is more of a civil action, but it does seem to me conceivable that we could design processes such as the gentleman is describing.
Well, and generally, this due process is protected under this. What it does do, it limits a 90 days administrative leave. It forces the agencies to move forward with it, and it would eliminate in the public's mind, why are we going on and on and on with something? It requires a 2-week reporting period for the agencies to get back to the committee to let them know what the progress is on. It does not leave the employee in limbo, not knowing what's going to happen. It also protects taxpayer funds, which I think at the end of the day, all of us in the private sector would start to wonder about how can you pay somebody on administrative leave. I'm not denying their due process. I don't think any of us want to do that. And the other thing, you want to be very careful not to paint anybody with the same brush. But we have seen instances where this takes place, and there is just nothing in place right now for the heads of these agencies to handle it. And I've sensed their frustration. I can't imagine running a bureau or an agency where your hands are tied and you can't do what you know is right. So what this does, it puts those, again, a tool that they have not had previously. It gives them mechanics to do what I think all common sense and thoughtful people would consider good legislation.